Hey everybody, Mike Toy with Bonsai Boise. This is my wild and crazy honeysuckle, and I decided to finally pot it up into a bonsai pot. But first, we'll go back in time and show you how it started. So about 5 years ago, this was given to me as, I guess you could call it a cutting. It was really just a branch that broke off the mother plant. It's back in 2020. I was kind of surprised it rooted, being as big as it was, but it did. And I didn't really do much with it. I just kind of let it grow that first year. Then the following year, June 21, I decided to air layer the top part off. Did it the normal way there, except I used cocoa peat instead of sphagnum moss. And then I pretty much let it just go till the next year, May of 2022. In hindsight, I think I harvested it a little bit early. Probably should have let it go another couple of months or so. But there were some roots, and I potted it up. That's what it looked like after I took the air layer off. Unfortunately, the top half ended up dying anyways because it was kind of tucked away on my north-facing patio. It didn't get much light, and it just kind of died. So, missed opportunity. Would have been cool though. And then fast forward to June of 24. It really loves to grow suckers from the base there. And here you can see some berries that are growing. I've seen it flower before. It grows these cool little white flowers. But I think this is the first time I've ever seen it grow berries. And for the most part, up to there, I just would let it grow out and I'd hack it back and I'd grow out again and hack it way back. Here it is just maybe a week or two later, those berries turned red. Kind of cool looking. I don't know if they typically are supposed to do that every year or what, but that was the first time I had noticed it ever doing that. But at this point, I start giving a little bit of thought toward what kind of style I want it to have and, what I'm going to do with it eventually. But not too much yet because it's still in that plastic pot and it still has, I know I'm going to have to saw that top part off, that dead part there, the dieback. But I'm at least thinking about how it should go from here. These honeysuckles are pretty interesting. Some varieties of them are considered invasive. I did a little research and I don't think that this one is considered invasive. So far, it's never really invaded or ground layered or anything. I have other trees. I have a Virginia creeper that will ground layer. It's kind of a vine, and as it touches the ground, it just ground layers, then it starts popping up everywhere. This one has never done that. So I don't think it is the invasive type. But what's cool about it to me is the bark. It's unique. It's this kind of flaky, shaggy looking bark. Here it is just like 1 month later. July of 24, and it's already grown out. I mean, that's a lot of growth for just 1 year, or 1 month, sorry. So I just hacked it back again. Kind of, thinking toward the future of how I want it to go, but there's a lot of work that has to be done still at this point. So up to now, it's been in this pot for 4 years. Here it is in October, so the end of the growing season. And then fast forward to just a couple of months ago, February of 25. So I'm gonna end up sawing that top part off because it's just dead. Here's a better look at some of the structure. So I'm kind of like just looking at some of the flow of these branches and deciding which ones to keep and which ones to get rid of. There's more dead branches there at the bottom. I will say I peeled bark off of this a couple of times And if you go past that first layer, it just looks weird, and then that shaggy, flaky part doesn't really want to grow back very easily, so it looks a little goofy and awkward. So you have to resist the temptation to peel the flaky bark off. I'm going to cut the top part right like that. That was really hard to saw. First I tried it with this little handsaw for a while. Then I switched to a power saw because it was just faster. But that's how it looks afterwards. That'll take some time to heal over and kind of smooth out. What I don't know at this stage is what it looks like under the soil. I imagine it's probably got lots of roots, but I have no idea what condition they're in. And I wasn't even originally planning to pot it up into a bonsai pot, but after about a week, I saw some buds just starting to pop, and I thought, you know what? Why not? Why wait another year? So I did. I looked around my pots, couldn't find anything super happy with, so I had that plastic training pot that I just showed there. I'm just going to put it in that at first, just to begin the bonsai training process. Then it might prove to be overkill, or, I don't know yet. But I do that a lot with trees. When I'm transitioning them from a big plastic training pot, I'll transition them into a big bonsai training pot so that the roots still have room to grow out quite a bit, but they grow horizontally rather than vertically. As you can see, it's got lots of roots, so that's good news. Making quite a dirty mess too. And one thing I'm hoping for, that sometimes you get lucky on, is that root base can end up being kind of it makes the base of the trunk wider and broader. So I'm kind of hoping for something like that. If I can expose more of the trunk, in other words, and bring the soil level down, it might allow me to get away with that. And I'll show you a better example here in a second. As I start getting into the roots here, it starts taking shape a little more. Kind of an easing in process too. I don't go in guns a-blazing. Get rid of this little dead knob here at the base. And off it goes. Got a little more chipping away to do. But you can kind of see what I mean, where that root ball just kind of fused into one giant hard ball. So I'm going to try to expose some of that just to give it a little more of a flare at the bottom. So instead of the trunk being, no taper and just the same thickness all the way down, it'll kind of taper down some. But there's a challenge with this one. So one of the coolest features, I think, is, being that flaky bark is not on the base of the trunk now. So it'll be kind of an experiment to see, will it grow on the base there where there is none or not? I don't know. Worst case scenario, in a couple years, if it does not, then I can always bury it a little deeper in the soil. Best case scenario is that it does. I really have no idea on the actual age of this thing. So back when it was given to me in 2020, it was just a branch off of a giant mother plant. So this thing could be 20 years old or 50 years old or 100. I just have no idea. So I don't know how long it takes for that flaky bark to, form. So we're going to find out. But right now, I'm thinking that this pod is the right size. There's a better look at that root ball slash trunk base. What we're turning into a trunk base. Kind of interesting and weird looking in itself. But it does look different than the rest of the bark on the trunk. So that's the part I'm a little worried about. That soil mix is just kind of my normal mix of pine bark, perlite, pumice, a little bit of volcanic rock. I think there might be some macadamia in this. I'm getting away from macadamia, but I still had a little left, so there might be some in there. But I take some time and really work the soil into the roots. And this is kind of what we're left with at the moment there. So style-wise, it's got a long way to go, but it's definitely come a long way too. It looks a lot better than that scraggly bush in that giant pot that it was in earlier. But like I said, still has a long way to go. That trunk chop at the top there, that's going to take some time to heal over and kind of smooth over. And I'm going to have to stay on top of it as far as trimming goes, because just based on the experience so far, it loves to grow suckers from the base. So I'm going to really keep my eye on that and make sure to keep those in check. And that's where I left it that particular day. And I'll show you what it looks like now. First, we'll take a real quick closer look at some of the structure here. There's a better look at that trunk base and what was the root ball, which will now be part of the trunk base. See what I mean? How it kind of makes it flare out more and gives it a little more character. I just hope some of that bark grows on there, but who knows? It might take, a decade for that to happen. I don't know. And bark is a cool feature though. It just makes it look old and weathered. Got that little hollow spot there in the middle too, which I don't think I'd ever noticed before doing this because it was always such a overgrown bush. I just never saw it. Yeah, so that's a weird little feature down there. That's my biggest question mark. I just don't know what's going to happen down there at the base. But I think it'll be all right. Then fast forward just a little bit to the end of March, and you can see it's starting to grow out again. Always a good sign. It's always a little bit scary when you first repot a tree, just in the off chance that you overdid it or something. But these honeysuckles are pretty tough. So it's looking good. Then fast forward again. Here it is as of about a week ago. And it's growing out a lot better. So first week of April of 25, and it's looking good. Keeping those suckers at the bottom in check. Got rid of those. And here's to a bright future for this guy. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day.